My name's Jonathan Lovett. I'm the father of the chapel, the union rep here at North London Herts newspapers, which comprise chiefly the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser, the Barnet Press and the Haringey Advertiser. We're just based around the corner in Enfield town, as most of you are probably aware. We're going to have some excellent range of speakers here tonight in what is the opening salvo in a very important battle to try and save local newspapers. I'd also like to pay tribute to the many people, our supporters, many of you I see out there tonight, who helped us in what became the first strike in this country, specifically about the decline of quality newspapers. And as a tribute, part inspired by this, the NUJ has chosen to launch this national campaign here tonight to save local newspapers.
We're here tonight to launch a renewed campaign and our commitment by the NUJ to the principles of quality local newspaper provision. We want to do that in defence of decent, well-resourced papers that properly reflect the communities that they serve. And a quality press is something that is being stripped away in towns and cities across the UK, day after day, by companies that have plunged our industry into a crisis. You could look anywhere and see that the ability of journalists to deliver news has been under threat, particularly over the last 18 months, 2 years. Last year, a leading media industry commentator, Claire Enders, predicted that a third of UK regional newspapers and half of all jobs in regional media would disappear by 2030. Some towns have been left with no reporters at all left in situ. Staff shortages mean more reliance on political or corporate PR. Investigative reporters and specialist reporters are practically an endangered species, and what used to be bread and butter functions of a local newspaper have simply disappeared.
It's clearly from the council we can send out a whole series of press releases and reports and so on and so forth, and if they are simply reproduced as news, then I think that goes a long way to undermine the sort of discussion that needs to take place. While I'm absolutely convinced the sort of things that we say are fair and reasonable, they do demand interrogation and challenge. And that's what a local newspaper can do. And one of the problems, of course, of reducing the resourcing is the ability for that to be properly done. The ability to ask those questions, to make those comments, to be able to spend the time and effort in both researching what's been said, finding out what's been said in the past, being able to interrogate, being able to ask questions. And it's a pretty simple resourcing issue, isn't it? If that's taken away, if that capacity is reduced and undermined, then it's absolutely inevitable that the quality of the coverage and the ability to hold the council to account is reduced.
My members, when they're facing problems, the first thing, I can guarantee any trade union rep in here, they say, John, will we get it in the newspaper? Now, if we were saying that newspapers don't count anymore, that is the first thing everybody asks. Can you get a story in the local newspaper? Because people are still reading these free newspapers. And now is definitely the time, is it not, that we have somebody turning up at council meetings, so at least I have one person with me, turning up to scrutinise some of the madcap decisions, and I am a bit biased because I'm in Barnet, and some of them are really mad, but it's been really good having journalists who've had lots of work to do reporting what's going on in Barnet, but getting that message out, because you can't have a campaign, you can't run stuff like we've done here with the hospital campaign, you can't do that if the residents don't know about it. And if you end the voice, the local paper, you end the chance for organisations to stand up and oppose some of the crazy things that go on that are our public services, with our public money, and as that leader, the Enfield leader says, we should be peering over his shoulder.
We've heard a lot tonight about campaigns and politics and cuts, and I want to talk about the voice that the reporters give to the individual. Yvonne Douglas called us. She was living in a burnt-out flat in Tottenham. She'd been living in this burnt-out flat for months. Haringey social services were running around, not giving her somewhere else to stay. She was sleeping on a camp bed which was suspended on crates. She said she'd been going around in circles with the council. She said she'd almost given up. When I saw her, I spent probably about an hour talking to her before I even touched my camera. She was very, very distressed. Despite her lawyer, doctors, and even MP David Labby's attempts, nothing could be done. The day that our story came out in Haringey Advertiser with this picture in, she got a phone call from the council saying, "Oh, we found you somewhere. We're going to move you. Pack your boxes up." And she was moved. A couple of weeks later, we went to see her in her new place. She was very happy. It had all been kind of painted out for her, you know, new carpets, the lot. And the one quote she said to us was, "If this hadn't gone in the paper, I'd still be in that horrible place." One of the cutest and most adorable little boys I've ever photographed. As you can see, he's not very well. This was the first time we photographed him. He's 3 years old. He had been diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a form of cancer. Now, Jack needed, his parents called us, Yvonne and Richard called us, because they needed money to send him to America for pioneering treatment you couldn't get here. So, over the years, we raised money. There were people holding fates, doing marathons, all sorts of things to get Jack over to America, and you know, we got him there, and it was an amazing story. Sadly, in 2009, despite all those efforts, Jack passed away. But I want to share with you what his mum said to us about the paper. "Thanks to all the readers of the press who raised thousands of pounds for Jack's treatment. Sadly, Jack passed away last night. Richard and I still continue to wonder at why so many people have been captured by Jack. We know why we loved and continue to love Jack deeply, but it is difficult to understand exactly how he caught the hearts of strangers and those who see him in a professional capacity in such a profound way. But he has, and we are deeply grateful for all the love shown that has made Jack's short life such a special and happy one." Yvonne Brown, May 2009. Now, those are my 3 case studies. These are not things that you get from press releases. This is what you get from hard-working reporters, answering phones, going out into the community, talking to people. And that's what we want to keep in Enfield and Barnet and Haringey.
About 2 months ago, we found out that they, of their plans to make the whole of our sport and leisure team redundant. There were 10 people, and they also wanted to make a news editor redundant and one of our web team as well. We decided that we weren't just going to go on strike, we were going to set up a campaign. But before we went on strike, we balloted to work to rule. So when we did that, we started our campaign, and that involved asking people, asking members of the community, members, residents, and our readers, politicians, to write to our MD and tell him why, ask him what is he doing, what are you doing to our newspaper? We were pleased to reach an agreement, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's a victory. I would say, unfortunately, it's just less of a loss, because when
readers are the real owners, and so there's an intrinsic problem still to be solved with even a cooperative or a John Lewis. The people who work there are still working for themselves. It is essentially still a private company. Maybe we can go back to real newspapers I would like to see owned by the readers. Thanks.
So the NUJ is saying to the newspaper society at large, we want you to give a 6-month moratorium, not just in Tyndall's, not just in Newsquest, South London, but throughout the industry, where there will be no further job cuts, no further closures, and a meaningful dialogue, which ideally should take place nationally as well as locally, so that we can work together to try and solve the problems. Because unless we do that, as Eric has told you, they're going to, when they finally realise that the profits are not going to return to the levels that they were at, they're going to just abandon the ownership one way or the other. And part of this campaign as well is about that. It should not be possible anymore for newspapers to change hands or be closed without any public debate about it. What do you think as readers about the type of newspaper you want in the future? Because we have to tell you, good journalism is not cheap. I don't mean the wages that people get, because that is cheap at the moment. I mean to provide that depth of coverage and quality cannot be done on a shoestring. It's got to be something that people believe is worth what they pay for it. And we have to force the ownership at the moment, before it's too late, to accept that that is a conversation that should be happening with us and with the readers, and only that way can we secure a future for the industry and for you to have the scrutiny and the balanced variation of comment that you get at the moment, because it's all at risk as we speak tonight. Thank you very much.